Nice. So I've been calling as long as you've been breathing oxygen on this planet, and I'll tell you, I'm still learning. The first sound I made, I turned it around and sucked in, and they don't do that. I'll be calling 911.
Now that's something you don't hear every day. Somebody throwing lead in a condom in their mouth.
Yeah, no.
That
was back in the late 30s, early 40s, and trust me, the latex had only been used once. No, it had never been used. So don't go there. Don't go there.
Oh man, hide your kids, folks.
Living Country in the City, Episode 9.
Y'all ready for your dose of flyover state spirit? Straight from the concrete jungle? Well, put down your latte and pull on your boots. It's time for Living Country in the City.
Well, here we are, yet another episode of Living Country in the City from the International Sportsman's Expo in Salt Lake City. We just finished up watching the RMEF World Championships for elk calling. It was awesome show to watch. I know I learned a whole lot about what makes a good elk call, what makes a bad elk call. I know I still have tons more to learn. I'm here with Big Al Morris. Introduce yourself, Al.
Well, I work full-time for FOXPRO, and we make the high-end electronic game callers out of Lewistown, PA. It's really cool. We're the only American-made electronic game call company in the country. But aside from that, we do have elk calls, and it's awesome to come to. I live here in Utah, so coming to Salt Lake City for the World Elk Calling Championships was just an extension. Of course, I didn't make the cut to the finals, but that's, there was 22 of the best callers on the planet, and when it all shook out, they had a call down to number one, and Brian Langley, I think he's a 3-time world champ now, won it again, and Corey Jacobson took second, and new batch of judges. It's just fun, and it's fun to meet you, and you're over here in Salt Lake City learning about elk calls, and what did you learn?
Well, so in all reality, I picked up my first diaphragm call. What's today? Today is March 18th, and so as of recording this, I picked up my first diaphragm call probably about a week or two ago.
That's awesome.
And threw it in, and it sounded like I was strangling a squirrel, but I at least got to make a sound. So I was pretty dang proud of myself with that one, and been watching a lot of videos since then. But coming in here, just learning a lot of stuff, talking with the different folks, talking with you, talking with Rocky and Corey, and
some of the best teachers on the planet.
Oh my gosh, and everyone here is so willing to sit down with you.
Absolutely, all these pros. I put a diaphragm call in my mouth 34 years ago. You're not even that old, are you?
I was going to say that was the year I was born right there. You're putting a diaphragm call in.
Nice. So I've been calling as long as you've been breathing oxygen on this planet, and I'll tell you, I'm still learning. Every time I do a seminar, every time I go out in the field and call elk, I'm still learning. And it's something you're not going to just pick up overnight. It's something that really does take some dedication to learning how to use a diaphragm call. And the point is, you picked it up a week or two ago, and now you're learning and you're on the road. And that's really what it's about. This process of life is learning new things. And learning the diaphragm call can be hard, as you well know. The first sound I made, I turned it around and sucked in. And don't do that. I'll be calling 911 from Montrose, Colorado Springs, Utah, to have somebody rotary that thing out of your throat. Wayne Carlton taught me 34 years ago how to use a diaphragm elk call, and it's just been a study my whole life. And whether you believe me or not, it doesn't matter, but I've had my knife in 738 elk. And I was a professional guide since 1990. I'm still professionally guiding, even though I work for FOXPRO. Last year, I had one of my most successful years, killed my biggest bull, a big 6x6 in Utah. I drew a nice tag here in Utah. Took my boss to New Mexico, called 16 bulls in 4 days. Of those 16 bulls, 5 of them were less than 5 yards from him. So you can really take a diaphragm elk call, make real authentic sounds, and you can get elk really close to you. And that's what it's about, learning to call a wild animal in. I love calling coyotes. I'm known for calling coyotes. I'm on national TV. We got our Fur Taker TV show on the Outdoor Channel, but I really love to call elk.
So for those who don't know anything about this, people are coming at it fresh. A lot of people that talk to me, they're kind of in the same boat where I was a little while ago. They're like, I want to start hunting. I just really have no idea how to go about this. But so for these people that are coming fresh in, can you kind of explain what a diaphragm call is?
A diaphragm call is basically a piece of latex that is in a horseshoe-shaped deal that they stretch that latex. You can get different stretches and give you different pitches, but they fold that aluminum horseshoe over onto it, and then they add tape around it. So it's called a diaphragm, and you press your tongue against that latex and make noise. And it sounds easy, but as you well know, it can be hard.
I mean, let alone getting your first sound out of it, regardless of what that sound is
it's
a
important
bit of a
to make
challenge.
noise.
Yeah.
It's important to get noise out of them.
You know, once you get that, then you're like, okay, this is kind of how it works. Then,
absolutely.
Then you can get to the actual first step of elk.
No, and then you start making sounds, and elk are awesome. They're really vocal animals. You can make great cow calls, great bugles, and you can do it all hands-free with a diaphragm in your mouth. And that's the advantage. Elk hunters, if you're going to be a diehard elk hunter, you need to use a diaphragm. But now some people have high palates. They have a mouth structure that isn't conducive to great elk calling with a diaphragm.
Okay.
But Rocky Mountain Calls, Phelps, there's a lot of callers, Hunter Specialties, Primos, they have domes over those, and those domes over that latex will help guys with high palates. So just because you have a high palate, don't worry. And it came from the turkey calling world. Ben Rogers-Lee was the first one to take lead, a piece of lead, and fold it over onto a latex condom that he'd cut up. And they stretch it, and then he put it in the roof of his mouth, and he was the first one to really start using a diaphragm call.
Now, that's something you don't hear every day, somebody throwing lead in a condom in their mouth.
Yeah, no.
That
was back in the late 30s, early 40s, and trust me, the latex had only been used one. No, it had never been used, so don't go there. Don't go there.
Oh, man. Hide your kids, folks.
You can cut that out.
That's going in. That one's too good. So that's one of the things I actually learned while I was here is two of the different types of diaphragm calls. You have the palate plate and you have the tone top, right?
Yes.
Are there any other types of diaphragm calls?
No, that's it. You know, Rocky was the first one to do a palate plate, and then the tone trough, and that it all came from Ben Rogers-Lee. He was the first one to do that. He actually domed lead over latex back in the 40s, and it's been around since then. And it just helps you. It helps some people get sound out of that latex.
Mm-hmm. And I've definitely noticed if there's one thing I've learned, there are hundreds of different types of, different individual cuts and widths and tightnesses and stretches and of these diaphragm calls. And it's just an experimentation game, finding one that works for your mouth shape, works for what you want to call, how you want to call.
Don't buy just one, because you got to find one that fits the structure of your mouth really well. And it's the structure, I have a big wide palate, so the diaphragms I use are big and wide. And don't be intimidated by a diaphragm call. It's just latex, it's just aluminum, and actually just a piece of athletic tape that they've put around it. And when you put it in your mouth, you put it right behind your front teeth up on the roof. If you stuck your tongue out, I'd probably put my finger on a spot right in the middle of your tongue or towards the middle front of your tongue, and then you press up. And you make just such sweet cow calls with them. Mm-hmm. And then you can advance. I tell people to growl into it at first, and that gives you that low end of a bull bugle. And and so you can cow call, and the fun thing about elk hunting is you can call every elk that's on that mountain. You can call the cows, you can call the calves, and you can call the bulls, and that's what the hunters are using these diaphragm calls for. And you're on your way. You're gonna go elk hunting now. I know you. I can see it in your eyes.
I got my September blocked out. I'm hoping we'll see what the draw odds give me, but I've always got my over-the-counter tags as a good backup. So
absolutely, elk hunting is as fun as it gets.
So now we've got diaphragm calls, and what else do we have in this world of calling? What other kind of calls? What other kinds of toys?
The other
and
calls that are available are calls with mylar reeds on the top of them, and it has a tone board, and this tone board is curved, and you can get a high pitch if you get to the end of it, and you can get a lower pitch in here. So I'll just give you an example of it. And if you said I only got to take one call, I have killed so many elk with this call here, and it's just a tone board made out of mylar. It's got and it really does make those. You can get on it and really do an estrus type of, and just growling into it. And so between the diaphragm and open tone board call, that's what's going to be your best call.
Fantastic. And so now with those diaphragm calls, explain the bugle tube to me.
The bugle is just an extension of it. So if I was to just do this, it sounds good, but when you put a tube together into it, it magnifies everything you're trying to accomplish with it. And so the bugle tube is just a magnification of what you're trying to do with the diaphragm. It enhances the diaphragm sound, and that's the tube I use is corrugated, much like an elk's esophagus, and that gives you a more truer elk sound.
Okay. And is this a tube available
at FOXPRO? Go to gofoxpro.com. We've got them on our website.
Okay. What kind of tube is this for the listeners?
It's our big bully tube, and it's got a baffle on the end of it. I can actually turn this off. So as you're bugling, it's 34 years of elk calling wrapped up in this tube that I've developed. And so always in the past, I'd have to put my hunters out 20, 30, 40, 50 yards in front of me, and I'd walk back. Now I can stand there right next to you and just turn this off. So if you're listening, it has a baffle in there, and my tube is the most unique tube on the market. No other tube will shut that sound off completely, and it's amazing the reactions I'm getting out of it. It's awesome. Bugling bulls makes a great call. Primos makes elk calls. I mean, there's lots of calls out there, but mine was designed strictly to kill elk, and it's an awesome design.
Okay, so we've got the diaphragm calls, we've got the reed calls,
the external calls,
we got our bugle tube. So how does one start getting into calling now?
Most days when I'm out in the field, you just want to go out and what makes you a great elk caller is you're where the elk want to be, and they're going to come to you. But if you don't know where that is, the first thing I do is I do a locating bugle. So I'll go out there in the woods and I'll just do a non-aggressive bugle. I'm just saying, is anybody out there? And I'm hoping he goes, I'm over here, and then you know where he's at, and you go to him. Never forget, after that point, some guys just locate, and then they get in close, and all they do is cow call. It depends on the herd dynamics. I mean, there is no just one go-to scenario. I sound like a small bull. I sound like a small bull with a cow and estrus, and they have a pecking order. All elk live in a pecking order. And if a bigger bull hears a smaller bull with a cow and estrus, he's going to, oh, no, you didn't. I want that lady. So he'll come. And I call a lot of bulls doing that. The other thing I do is I call to the entire herd. And you won't hear any other guy tell you about the cows are in as much competition to breed as the bulls. And, of course, we as hunters, we focus on those bulls because they got the big, pretty headgear. We want those antlers on our wall so we can look at them every day. Want a good mount.
But you can't eat an antler.
No, you can't eat an antler. And in a lot of states, like Utah, you have to draw the big bull tags. And if you don't do that, the over-the-counter tags are the cow elk and the spike elk. You can go hunt those. So I like to call the entire herd, and I do that with cow calls, using the diaphragm with the cow calls, using the external reed with the cow calls. And you can literally call the entire herd in. Now you compound your issues with too many eyes, ears, and noses. They're going to see you, hear you, or smell you. And remember this, an elk will see you 3 times, hear you twice, but he'll only smell you once. So if you're calling in 20, 30 elk, you gotta be conscious of the wind. You got to be, so you're not moving. They won't see you, and don't let them smell you. And it complicates your life calling the whole herd in, but I've killed a lot of big bulls calling in the whole herd.
Okay, so we've talked a bit about elk calling, but you're telling me you are known for your coyote calls.
Yes, sir.
Coyotes. So what do you say? I've heard it all kinds of ways. Coyotes.
Coyotes doesn't matter. Vermin. Coyotes, I'm a 4-time world coyote calling champ. I work full-time for FOXPRO. We make the high-end electronic game callers, but elk and coyotes have been my passion my whole life. I just turned 50 this year, so I'm getting older, longer in the tooth, but man, I love coyote calling. I love, you can go to online to our Fur Taker YouTube page. We got 7 seasons of TV on our Fur Taker YouTube page. So and then we'll have you can go to our website, gofoxpro.com. We'll have elk calls. We got turkey calls. We'll have deer calls, but we really got a lot of coyote calls on that website.
Okay, I'll make sure to link to all that. I'll have a show notes page that I'll announce at the end of the show, and I'll make sure to link to all those pages on there so people can get there real easy.
Well, it's awesome. It's awesome that we ran into each other. You came to my seminar. You can tell I like what I do.
No, absolutely. On that note, really quick, let's take a moment and hear a word from one of our partners.
Hey y'all, if you're like me, a new elk hunter really trying to up your game and get into backcountry big game hunting, or if you're an experienced hunter trying to fill tags more consistently, you really need to check out elk101.com's University of Elk Hunting online course. If you're looking for a central resource to really take you all the way from start to finish when it comes to big game hunting, this is it. Corey Jacobson is a world champion elk caller and one of the definitive experts when it comes to elk hunting. And in this online course, he shares over 30 years of his elk hunting experience, strategies, and tips. All of this is broken down into easy-to-digest modules and packed full of great video content as well. This will provide you with all of the resources you need to be a confident elk hunter, regardless of your past experience. What's even better is you can get $10 off the University of Elk Hunting online course by visiting my partners page at livingcountryinthecity.com/partners.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about calling elk. We've talked about calling coyotes, yotes, whatever you want to call them. As I always say, I've got a lot of hunters that were in the same spot as me who are either intimidated or trying to get into all of this, and there's just so many toys to buy, so much to learn. What would you say to someone who feels like learning all of this is too far out of reach, too difficult, doesn't even know where to start?
So in the world we live in today, this media on demand is amazing. You can go to YouTube and Google calling elk, calling coyotes. You're gonna see us. You're gonna see professionals doing it. And if you saw the callers today on that stage, they were probably just a few short years ago. I can never remember seeing so many good callers. Everyone sounded amazing. The women, I mean, the youth. Did you see some of those kids? They're 11 to 15, and they're amazing.
Even that Pee-wee division, I think they're probably calling better than I can.
And I really think that a lot of people are going to YouTube. In our society, you can pull it up on your computer, so don't be intimidated. Get on your computer, Google elk calling, Google coyote calling, and look at some of those things you need, and it'll shortcut your search. And then you can kind of zero in on something that may click with you or somebody that may click with you. Watch how he does it. There's so many resources out there for people. And like you, everybody you've met's like, hey, dude, we can show you this, right? Mm-hmm. You know? Mm-hmm. So call up Rocky Mountain Calls and just ask the right questions. I'm this age, this is what I want to do. What would you send me? You know, send me your 3 beginner calls or something. And you don't have to spend a lot of money doing it. Don't spend a lot, don't invest a whole lot of money until you decide you really like it. But don't say you can't diaphragm call until you try it, right? And then you've got to go through some steps. And sometimes it's hard to find that mentor. It really is, to find somebody that will take the time out of their life to share with you. And that's why when somebody, you said you wanted to do this podcast, Wayne Carlton, 34 years ago, took 5 minutes out of his day to show me how to use a diaphragm elk call. Changed my life forever. Changed my direction. Changed everything. So that's why when somebody wants 5 minutes, I'm going to give it to them, because you never know. You could change somebody's life. So remember that. Share your knowledge. And you can go to gofoxpro.com. We have a community there, forums page. You can get on the big game section and say, hey, Al, I'm trying to use this diaphragm, but I'm having trouble. And maybe we can do some FaceTiming or something. Or maybe I'll be doing a show somewhere and you can come link up with me. I mean, there's shows. I go to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Sometimes I do shows in California. I've done some in Sacramento and north of Sac. And, we can link up and we can get you some one-on-one time. So don't ever, I don't want any of your podcast listeners to think that it's pie in the sky stuff. I'm proud to see you coming from California and coming to Utah to this expo and learning something. You've learned a lot this weekend, I can tell.
Oh yeah, and I talked to a lot of my friends. I was telling people I'm getting texts, right? as this is all going on, and everyone's like, "Hey, what you doing this week?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm Salt Lake City,
hanging out."
They're like, "Oh, what are you doing out there?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm at the Sportsman's Expo," and they're like, "Oh, that's cool. What's going on there?" I'm like, "I'm watching the elk calling championships, the World Elk Calling Championships," and there's this pause in the text, and they're waiting a second, and I usually get back something along the lines of, "Wait, that's an actual thing?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a thing." They're like, they're like, "Aren't those just big deer?" I'm like, "Well, kind of
big vocal deer."
Yeah, I was gonna say they're big deer that'll scream right in your face if you
let them.
If you let them, but it's just funny because it's one of those things where people from similar backgrounds to me, they come from a world where this just is not, and it's not even people that are against it or anything. There's just a lot of people where
they've never
had any exposure, and I get a lot of questions like, "Okay, tell me about this hunting thing that you're learning to do or you're into." Or
hunting is conservation. Somebody that's listening, they might be on the fence. I don't know if I really like hunting, don't know if it's my thing. Well, let me tell you what, if it wasn't for the dollars that you spend on licenses, that's what really manages these, Fun for Animals, PETA, all these, they don't put any money on the ground to manage these animals. They talk a good game, but when it comes right down to it, all you're paying for is BMWs and summer homes for these rich people. The reason that animals get managed in the western United States, this North American hunting conservation model is based on hunting, and it's based on license sales, and those license sales go to the it goes to the state division offices, and that's who manages the wildlife in the state of Utah. So you want to help manage wildlife, buy a hunting license.
And I always like to remind people that this wasn't some government mandate that came down that, hey, we're gonna take this money from your hunting licenses, we're gonna tax your guns, and we're gonna put it. No, this was a decision made by hunters. They lobbied to have a tax put on this, to have their money go towards conservation.
Yes.
And it's one of the few taxes that actually goes towards what it's intended for, and not.
Hunting is conservation, and let's face it, we don't have canine teeth in our human heads we're meat eaters. Our forefathers, they hunted, they gathered, and I think when you get stuck in an office building 9 to 5, you forget about that hunting gathering. And I think that's why people look. And if you want to get to the wild side, if you want to really experience something tremendous, get out in the wild, let a bull elk bugle. See that white-tailed deer running through. Go hunt some pheasants, hunt some doves. Hunting is recreation. Hunting is getting you back to your roots. We're hunters. We're fishermen. You know what they call it? You know what the word vegetarian means in Indian, don't you? Bad hunter.
Oh man.
No, I'm just teasing. But we have canines in our mouth for a reason. We're meat eaters, and guys, us humans have been hunting since we became human, and I can't tell you when that is. But it really is my getaway. It makes me feel free, and we have so much public land in this western United States. You living in California, you are only 8-10 hour drive from some awesome public land in Nevada. You come a little further, you're in Utah, Colorado, Wyoming, Idaho. Tons of public land.
Complete honesty, in California, we have a huge amount of public land. It's an enormous amount of public land, and we do have some very good hunting. It's just the really good spots tend to get crowded.
Yeah,
they tend to get real crowded. But you look at Angeles National Forest. Not even an hour drive outside of downtown Los Angeles, and there's deer, there's bear, there's plenty of coyotes, and you can do some hunting. The percentages aren't great. You're not going to see as much as you will other places, and you're going to be dealing with a lot more hikers. But there's definitely a lot of public lands out there if you look for them.
People get hung up on the kill. And it's not the kill. It's not the reason we hunt. We hunt to be free. And a kill is part of hunting. You want to harvest that animal. You want to utilize it. You want to eat it. But getting ready for the hunt, practicing your bow, practicing your calling. That's really where hunting is for me. And it's the camaraderie. You have this podcast going. There's hundreds and thousands of people going to listen to you, I know it, that are interested in this. And just know that when you become a hunter, it doesn't matter whether that's with a bow, a rifle, or I don't care if you use a spear or a rock, you're still hunting. And you're part of this, you're part of the fraternity. And don't hesitate, man. Jump in, become a hunter, because that's living in my book.
So, what are you excited about this year? What's next on the plate for Big Al?
I drew Wyoming elk. So first of September, I'm going to be chasing elk. In June, I'm going to Montana to dog coyotes with my decoy dogs, which is a whole nother. We could go into a whole hour segment on. Everybody's like, decoy dogs? What's that? And my dogs go out, pick a fight with the coyotes, and bring them back to me. It's awesome. Go on to YouTube and look up coyote dogging. And you'll see my dogs. Getting Stoked Outdoors is so you just remember, go to Coyote Dogging, Getting Stoked Outdoors. You'll see my two dogs. You'll see me. One biscuit shy of 300 pounds, but I still get around the hills pretty good, and I'm not skinny like you, and we love what we do. So I'm going to do some dogging this summer. I got some good elk tags coming this fall. Of course, the Utah, I drew my big bull tag in Utah last year, so this year I'm only going to have the spike cow trophy hunt that we go on for our bow hunt, but I didn't get this way eating salad, so I got this way eating elk meat, so I'm looking forward to that. And then usually one or two of my friends draw a good tag, so that's what I got coming down the pike.
All right, so now we talked about a couple of your sites. If people want to find you online, find you to ask questions, where can they hit you up on social media? What are the best websites to hit you up to kind of summarize you?
We have FOXPRO Incorporated on our Facebook page. Fur Takers and FOXPRO Incorporated are on Facebook. We have a YouTube, Fur Takers YouTube channel. If you look up FOXPRO Fur Takers on YouTube, we got 7 years of TV shows on that. And you can go to gofoxpro.com. We have an online community there. So you can go to the big game or just hit me up, send me a private message on there. I'm Alan Morris, Big Al Morris. You can find me there, and we'll try and get back to you as soon as we can. You can send me a Facebook message on our Facebook page, and love to talk to people, love to help people. I try to give everybody 5 minutes. It might change a life.
Well, I really appreciate you giving me a lot more than 5 minutes and taking the time to share everything. Thank you so much for joining me on the show, Al.
The best thing about this Salt Lake show this year was you coming from California and hanging out with us.
Glad to hear it.
All right, man. We'll see you next round.
That'll do it for episode 9 of Living Country in the City. Another big thank you to Al Morris for sitting down and walking us through all of that fantastic info on game calling. Make sure you check out Al on his social media pages, which you can find on our show notes page at livingcountryinthecity.com/9. Also, make sure you find us on your favorite podcast platform and subscribe, and also sign up for our email list at livingcountryinthecity.com. In the meantime, stay country, y'all.
Thank y'all for listening to Living Country in the City. Get show notes and check out the blog, product reviews, events, and more at livingcountryinthecity.com.